So, as I said earlier, we are starting today with sessions on organizational behavior. As we say, the homes are not made up of homes, but of people who live in that home. Then otherwise it is a house, just a structure. When we call it home, it is the people who live in that house that they make it as home. Similarly, any organization cannot be imagined without people working in the organization. And organizations are made up of people. In fact, the organizations are made great organizations with the help of the people or because of the people who are working in the organization. That is the importance of people or human beings in the organization. I'll give you an example. Long back, maybe when 1992 or 94, I was on a visit to the Bombay Stock Exchange because we had collaboration with the Stock Exchange for one program. So I was a regular visitor to the Stock Exchange, prepare the syllabus and all those things. So that day when I went, the CEO, Mr. Maya, Imam Maya was the CEO that time. He told me that, madam, otherwise both of us we used to take lunch together. But that day he called me and he said that, madam, please come to the floor of the speech group. Because today we have a Japanese delegation. Auditor General of Japan and his team visiting the Bombay Stock Exchange. And therefore, I would like that if you also attend this meeting. So I went upstairs and I joined that meeting. So a lot of discussion took place. Imagine Japan, when it was completely ruined after Second World War. And we were independent in 1947. So if we take that as a baseline, even in 1994, Japan was a developed nation and we were still a developing country. So there were many topics for discussion, technical discussion and all those things about the stock markets and all those things. But while the discussion was coming to an end, one of the directors of the stock exchange asked the Auditor General of Japan that if we take 1950 as a baseline, Japan was completely ruined. India was. And how come that in 1994, Japan is a developed nation and India is still struggling to become a developed nation? So the word that was used by the stock exchange director was, what is the miracle? The word used was, what is the miracle that Japan has done? So Japan became a developed nation. So the Auditor General of Japan replied to this, and he said that we don't believe in miracles. Miracles happen only when people think about the miracle. And so this is not a miracle. This is the hard work and commitment of every Japanese person. And so he said that it is the people of Japan who have made Japan a developed nation. That is the importance of the aspect of any organization underlying this. We may talk about technology, we may talk about anything. We may talk about digitalization and whatever we talk about. Ultimately, people part of the organization.
बद्री अन्ना को गैर जमानती सजा हुआ है 2 साल से पहले वो बाहर नहीं आएगा हम लोग को ये मालूम था ये काम
All of you, please mute your mics. Please mute your mics. And so you will find that until 1980s or so, even industries, they never believed or they never gave any importance to human resource. And even before that, if you look at the MBA curriculum, technology and economics, accounting, finance, all these aspects were discussed, but human resource aspect was not much discussed. After that, after 1980, in India it started very late. We started realizing this importance of after 2000 or after 2010 or so. But after 1980, organizations, they started believing in the human skills. Ultimately, even if you are using any machine, the man behind the machine is the most important. Your machine may be absolutely high-tech, but if the person who is operating that machine is not properly trained or it is not willing to operate that machine, then the machine cannot do it. So whatever you feed to the computer will give you the result. But if you feed wrong information, data to the computer, how you will get the correct answer? So today we are talking about artificial intelligence and all those things. I don't know what will happen after this. But up till now, when today we are sitting here and talking about the people side of the organization, you will appreciate that it is the people side of the organization which is the most crucial. And organizations struggle to get right kind of human resource to work with. And also people look at those organizations which they believe is good workplace. So we never believed that people is so important or people aspect of organization is so important. You know, in I think it was 2004 or 2005, for the first time, when the police academy called me and they said that we would like to add human side of the police force and we would like to train you to our police officers in this regard. So I said, sir, so when I went to the director of the academy and we were sitting in his office, he said, madam, what you would like to have, coffee or tea? And then he called, he pressed the bell and a person came, quite old man, came inside. He was about to retire, almost 60. He came inside and this director ordered him to coffee. He went. So I asked the director that, sir, what is the name of this person? The person who came inside, what is his name? The director said, took a pause and then he said, I know his bucket number, but I don't know his name. How long that person, you are sitting here, that person is working with you, is sitting outside your office. Are you a British officer or you are an Indian officer? The Britishers used to call us by bucket number, but long back. Now we are independent. And so I said that training starts from you. Training is not only for others, but it will start from you because first ask him what is his name, where he stays, what is his family background, whether he is really happy with the work. Ask him. That is the human side of the organization. You cannot treat people like this. So I told him that, okay, I'll train here in the academy, I'll come and to take the classes. But one day you give me your time, we will go around all the police stations in Nashik. And then I'll tell you what to do and what is my impression about that. So one day he took me and we went to all the police stations. And then I said, sir, here human beings are sleeping. What is the kind of police stations you have? There is no air, there is no natural light, there is no drinking water facility, there is no sanitation facility. Is this the place? And do you believe that only criminals come to the police station? No common man? And even criminals are human beings. So you cannot keep people like this, your own employees. So renovate all the police stations first. Make those police stations as working place where human beings can sit and human beings can work. See how the police stations are now. So you will find that what is important is the workplace, because the person who is working with an organization, he is giving almost his 3/4 of life to the organization. We are in the organization for long hours, 8 hours, 10 hours a day. So 60 hours a day we are with the organization, and in what conditions the people are working, that matters. Now this realization had come very late. And so you will find that OB. And then as I said, as the senior talks to the juniors, subordinates, talks to his colleagues. So these interpersonal skills are very, very crucial. And it is, the research has concluded that those organizations which people or which employees they feel that it's a good place to work, where the interpersonal skills are very healthy and good, people are satisfied and people give their best. And so you will find that when we talk about companies, when we talk about organizations, always companies with good working conditions, they are found to generate good financial performance. So look at the companies. Now, if you see, once I went to in Gujarat, I went to a chemical plant. It was heavy chemical. And we had to take all the care because students also were with me. So we had to take all the care, mask and gloves and all those aprons and all those things. And we went to see the factory. Believe me, this was in 2005. But believe me, spotless factory, heavy chemicals, but so clean. So these conditions make people perform best. And when the people perform best, financial results of that company are also best. And therefore, the organization, any company, should be a good place to work. People should feel, those who are working with the organization, that is important. And therefore, we have to have good place to work, and at the same time, we must have good interpersonal skills as well. So there is a strong association between quality of workplace and the performance of people who are working in the organization. Naturally, you may pay very high salary, but if it is not a good place to work, if the person is not treated like a human being, or if the conditions around that person in the no proper way to sit, no proper sanitization, no proper place to eat, all these basic conditions, and you will find that this has become more important and therefore organizational, because the behavior of an individual will depend on these factors. How the person will behave in the organization will depend on these factors. How is the workplace? How the interpersonal skills are, communication skills are. Now, all this will result in good financial results. Whether your organization is fostering social responsibility. Today, CSR has even become more important. Whether that company is fulfilling the corporate social responsibility, so that the workers, the employees who are working with an organization, proud that here is the company I'm working with. Please mute your mics. Please mute your mics.
Pa.
Please mute your mics. And so OB, organizational behavior, how a person behaves in an organization, that has become a very crucial study after 1980s. And many social, I should say, researchers, many psychological researchers or psychology researchers, they have studied the behavior pattern of people within the organization in a given set of environment. So why a person prefers one organization to another? Pay is another, but after a certain limit, pay doesn't become important. After that, these factors, they matter. How is the workplace? How is the interpersonal relations, communication skills? Whether the company is really fulfilling the corporate social responsibility. Now, all these things, they do matter. And therefore, if the organization wants to have right people or good people to work, then the organization must take care of these things as well. And so OB becomes relevant. So, how a person behaves in an organization as an individual and also in a group. How the person behaves in the organization will depend on all these factors. And so OB has come or OB has become very relevant. Now, when we have understood why OB is so relevant, what is OB? OB is investigating the impact of individuals, groups, and the structure on the behavior within the organization, and for the purpose of applying knowledge toward improving organizational effectiveness. Why the organizations come into existence with some goal? Even charity organizations, they may not have profit as a goal, but they have different goals. So there is a goal for every organization, and achievement of that goal is necessary, and that goal achievement can be done only through people. Today, no one of us can say that I alone can do it. We have to have teams, we have to have groups together. Recently, we had a World Cup, for example. So even for the cricket team, what kind of environment you give to them, how the BCCI behaves with them, what kind of facilities are given to them, what kind of pitch is provided to them, how many hours training is provided to them. All these things matter, apart from the individual excellence that the sportsman has, or the cricket team has. So all these things matter, and therefore individuals are there, groups are there, and a structure, organizational structure is there. We have a hierarchy in an organization, and who will report to whom, who will communicate to whom. All these are laid down. All these things are laid down in the structure. So how that structure is built, all this has impact on the people who are working within the organization. And this impact is to be measured, this impact is to be studied closely, because that impact on the individual or the group, that results in their behavior pattern. And when it results into behavior pattern, whether the employees or the people working within the organization are applying all their knowledge to achieve the goal of the organization or not, that is to be studied. And so OB is a study of individual and group behavior within the organization, and the impact of various factors on individual and group behavior, including structure. so that the organization comes to know what kind of changes we need to make so that individuals and groups give their best to the organization. Many a times we say that the person has potential, but the person is not exploiting the entire potential that he or she has. Many a times we see that. Many times we say that the student is capable of scoring 80%, but he settles at 65. He is not utilizing his potential. Why? So one needs to investigate. Just we cannot say that he is not using the potential. Why? Why not using the potential? And so whatever potential the people has in the organization as an individual and while working in a group, are they giving their best to the organization? This needs to be studied. And then necessary changes need to be made so that individuals and the groups working in the organization, they contribute to the attainment of the goals of the organization. So it is the study of what people do in an organization and they behave, how they behave in the organization. You know, some people, at times, absenteeism was a greatest problem in most of the organizations. At what level absenteeism? Or many people come late. Why they come? And so you will find that these are the matter of investigation. You just cannot generalize. So one has to find out what is the reason why this is happening. Why people are leaving the organization? For example, attrition rate is very high in some organizations. Why it is so? In spite of you give good pay, still people leave the organization. It is not that only pay decides whether the people will stay or not. And so it is necessary to study what the people are doing in the organization and the way they behave in the organization and what is the effect of that on their performance. And see, organizational performance ultimately will depend on the performance of all the individuals. So how we measure the organizational performance? Organizational performance is the sum total of the performance of the individuals working in the organization. So if you have to increase the organizational performance better than, then one has to increase and improve the performance of every individual in an organization. But the performance of every individual will depend on how he behaves in the organization. How he will behave in the organization will depend on various factors. So I'm coming backward. And so you will find that OB therefore is specifically concerned with employment related situations. It examines the behavior in the context of job satisfaction, absenteeism, productivity, employment turnover, as I'm telling you. So in the context of all this, we have to study the behavior pattern of the employees. Now, OB includes various core subjects. And these core subjects are motivation, leader behavior and power, interpersonal communication, very crucial, group and structure process, how the structure, organizational structure is prepared, attitude development and perception, how they look at their work, how they look at their organization. So what is their attitude towards their work, towards their organization? Change is a constant thing, as we say. Change is the only constant thing in this world. So the organizations also change. So from manual work, we have shifted to the automated, computerized work. Now this change was not easy. For example, in banks, those who are about to retire in 1 or 2 years, for them, learning again computer and going through the entire process was difficult. So, because change processes are always difficult to digest. Human psychology says that people don't like change. I'm comfortable with whatever I have, so I don't want any change. So I always prefer to live in a comfort zone. But change is the order of the nature. Every individual changes. Every year we grow by inch. Every day we grow by inch, by year. And so change processes need to be implemented. Then conflict and negotiations. When, as we say, when two people come together, there is always a conflict. And this conflict ultimately results in dispute. And the dispute ultimately results in strikes and all those things. So how to negotiate and then work design. How to design the jobs so that the person gets satisfied for whatever he is doing. And therefore, OB includes all these core subjects. Okay, so now we come to the individual behavior. So, as I said, the organizational performance is the result, sum total of individual performance of all the employees.
Ma'am, can you change the slide?
Yes.
Because it's stuck on 9 number of slide. Can you change it?
You want this slide?
Which slide is currently going on? Because I am seeing that factors that influence perception. That slide I am looking for.
No, I'm showing you individual behavior.
So can you change the slide because I am not able to see?
Just a moment. I'll share the again.
Share. Right bottom. Right side bottom.
Yeah.
Right side bottom. Below.
Here?
Khali and share.
Share. Oh, you are, sir. Just a moment. I'm sorry. Now, this is the slide that we are seeing right now. Are you able to get it? Which slide?
Individual behavior.
Individual behavior. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Can you see the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So,
Yes, madam.
okay. Thank you. So, individual behavior. As I said earlier, individual behavior in an organizational setting is very, very important because it has a direct impact on the performance of the organization. So, how the person behaves in an organization, how he reacts, and how he expresses, this becomes very crucial. Now, suppose the decision is taken by the management that from tomorrow there will be no overtime. For example, how the person reacts to this, how the workers will react to it. Very important to know before you take a decision. And therefore, again, lot of research is to be done on this. Understand what is the behavior pattern of our employees. And so you will find that whether the person, it is from two aspects. One aspect is whatever decisions are taken, how the person, how the individuals will react to those decisions. And number two, when the person is appointed on a particular position, whether that person is capable of handling those duties or responsibilities, that is also important. And therefore, in both the ways, individual behavior becomes crucial. And so, individual behavior, what it means, it refers to the actions, responses, reactions, and behaving ways of individual in a particular situation. So how the individuals now here, what is important is keen observation, as I was telling you. Keen observation of the people. And it's not, reaction is not only verbal, it is facial reaction, so body language. And so you will find that the person will not say anything. But from the face itself, one comes to know that the person is not happy or the person is contented or happy. And so you will find that individual behavior, what it means is the actions, the reactions and responses are behaving ways in different situations. So it is a combination of internal and external stimuli. It is both. How the person, please mute your mics.
व्हायरस असतील ना गेले नाही ते अजून व्हायरस असतील बघा विचार
से माइक बंद करा स्टूडेंट्स माइक बंद करा Now if the people have positive behavior, naturally it may have a positive impact on the performance of the organization, and naturally negative behavior will adversely affect the this brings us to the next topic, and that is perception. Now, what is perception? Perception is a process by which we organize and interpret sensory impressions to give meaning to our environment. So, we all live in some given environment. Now, suppose I have put this glass before you. Looking at this glass, what do you think? Now,
It's half this.
Hmm?
It has half.
Half.
It is water.
Please observe the half is in
Let me ask you. कोणाला तरी वाटेल आजारी का? This is the perception.
Yes.
In a given set of environment, this is my sensory impression. What my eyes see, I say, oh, it is half empty. I may react like this, or somebody may react, oh, it is half full. So, sensory reactions happen. What you understand by perception? Tell us.
normal human beings असतात जे ते फक्त बघतील की हाफ एम्प्टी
नाही, perception म्हणजे काय?
परसेप्शन एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्ह्यू की तुम्ही हाफ एम्प्टी बघताय की हाफ
So, how you look at that particular object in a given set of environment? Okay. For example, all employees may feel that this is a great place to work. But this is unusual because there is a very rare thing that universal agreement among all the people. But some people may be there. They will say that it is a good place to work, but. So that but comes. So perception is an important study of people because people's behavior is based on their perception. Now, perception is the reality that a person decides for himself or herself. It may not be reality. It is not reality in itself, but I think that this is reality. मला असं वाटतं की हे सत्य आहे. ते सत्य असेलच असं. Because we see that in the dark, you see the rope, the famous example, you see the rope, and we feel this is a snake. But reality is different. But I think that, and then I say, no, I saw the snake only. And somebody will tell me, no, it was not a snake. But then I very strongly believe not it was a snake. Because I feel that is the real. My perception says that that is what is the real. And I act accordingly. So I see that rope as a snake and I start shouting. I act accordingly because I feel that is the real. Somebody will say that no, someone who is with me in the dark will say, no, this is a rope, don't shout. But still I will keep on shouting because I see that as a rope. Okay, so that is perception. Now, in your book, the famous example of that lady and that is given. So you can see that example. But I'm giving you different examples. Now, how our perception is created? What are the factors that contribute to our perception? So the first factor is a perceiver. So when I see a particular target, I perceive that target based on the interpretation that I make. And my interpretation is based on what? My personality, my interest, my past experience. It is based on that. So, for example, your past experience is you had gone to a bank and the clerk there was very rude to you. Your past experience. Okay. Next time when you go to the bank, you are a person. So when you look at the clerk, you perceive that the clerk will be rude only for me. And you start talking in that way. The clerk may be different. Or that day he might have been rude. But today he might not be rude. But then that is the reality for me. So when I tell my friend, don't go to that bank because people are very rude. Because I have perceived that based on my past experience. This is based on my past experience. I'm a very angry type of a person. My personality is like that. Then I perceive every person, whoever comes to me, to whoever I am talking, I talk to that person in that tone only. Because my personality is like that. And so you will find that the first factor that influences our perception is we ourselves, the perceiver. I am the perceiver. So I look at this glass. If I'm a very negative type of person, I will say, no, this is half empty. You may try to convince me that no, take it positively, this is half full, but I will say, no, this is half empty. Because I have a negative attitude towards everything. My motivation is negative. And so you will find that the perceiver is very, very important. Many a times we hear what we want to hear. We see what we want to see. We don't hear many a times we tell our friends, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear. Because we have perceived something and contradictory to that we don't want to. Contradictory to that, I don't want to see it. And so you will find that this is how perceiver makes his or her perception. For example, in an organization, how this works? A supervisor strongly believes that one should get up early in the morning and start the work early so that you are better performer. He perceives, and when the people are not performing, he perceives that because they are not starting their work early morning, they are not good performers. But a supervisor who is a night owl, we can say, who believes in working at night. This we experience. Some students, they believe that they can study better at night. So they will start their study at 12 o'clock. And the father is exactly opposite. So he will always praise that no, you should study early morning. Because I perceive, and then if the student gets less mark, father will say it is because you studied at night. Because perception. This is how, and in the organization also this happens. So those who start work late, the supervisor may feel that they are not performing because they have started late. Because they at night they may be partying, they may be late night, they might have done something, and so they are lazy, and so they are not. And so you will find that the perceiver, my attitude, my motive, my interest, my personality, according to that or based on that, I perceive certain things. Okay, so the first factor is perceiver. Second factor is target. The characteristics of the target also affects our perception. Because we don't look at the target in isolation. We look at the target in a given set of environment. And in that given set of environment, we perceive certain things. For example, we also perceive women, men, whites, or members of any group that has clearly distinguishable characteristics. For them, we have certain. So earlier our perception was women cannot work in army. That was our perception. Was it correct? Actually, was it correct? That perception was reality? How? Now today women are working in army. Still the perception is there.
Earlier we feel like.
That is what I'm asking. That perception, we had that perception that women cannot work in army. It took so many years to change. Isn't it? Social pressure. Whatever may be the factors, but the perception. So our perception, so women is the target group, for example. They cannot take higher education, for example. That was the perception. It was perception, it was not the reality, but people thought it is the reality. Maybe because of the environment, because of the atmosphere around you, whatever it, because you are not seeing women in isolation, you are seeing women in the given set of environment. So how the whites look at the black in Western countries, for example. All these blacks are indisciplined persons. All whites are good leaders. And so you will find that these assumptions that we make, they are harmful actions. But when people who have, in an organization, when a manager has this kind of perceptions, it is very limited. Now, for example, even in corporates, even for example in Bosch, when we took the training programs, the Bosch has, the company had hardly 1% of its employees as women. Now, that time, the Bosch management told us that we want to increase this percentage to 5%. in next 3 years. But people working within the organization, the male employees, they were reluctant to accept women employees with them. So perceived things, and this is very harmful at times. So in an organization, mixing the culture. Now today what is happening is, for example, in an organization, when I do some work at my home, civil work, for example, at my home, I tell the contractor, don't bring Biharis to my house. My perceived, isn't it? Kerala or the girl from Kerala, they are the best nurses, for example. So at times, so if a Maharashtrian girl comes to the hospital saying that I am a qualified nurse, and along with her is the Kerala nurse, the girl coming from Kerala, the inclination is towards the Kerala. Because I have perceived for years together, and I feel that is the reality. So in this sense, these assumptions are harmful for the organization. And so the manager, the decision maker, they will have to overcome this assumption while they are managing the organization. Then context. This also matters too. The time in which we see the object. In the context, what context we are looking at the person. This can influence our attention as location, light, heat, or situational factors. Suppose you are traveling in a bus. It's very hot, and the bus breaks down. There is no shelter. It's very hot. You have very limited water. And in such a situation, some person says something. You start perceiving that person's morality or that conduct or that behavior because you are already irritated with that heat and with that breakdown of the bus. So context. I have given here one example that you may not notice someone dressed up in formal event which you attended on Saturday. But suppose Monday in an MBA class, the person comes in the same dress, I immediately identify that person. So that will catch my attention. Neither the perceiver nor the target has changed. But the context has changed. Saturday night I saw the person, that student, in some social gathering. Today I am seeing the person in the class, but in the same dress. So the target is the same. Perceiver is the same.
Old slide.
Yes.
स्लाइड चेंज नाही झाली आहे. प्लीज स्लाइड चेंज कराल का? इंडिव्हिज्युअल बिहेवियरची स्लाइड दिसते.
अरे असं का होतंय?
काय माहिती.
एक मिनिट ना काय बघा.
3 नंबरची स्लाइड दिसते आता.
एक मिनिट ना बघते मी काय झालंय.
Ma'am, you have to change slide each time when topic has been changed.
Just 1 minute. Slide show करा.
Are you able to see now context?
Yes, yes.
दिसते का context slide दिसते?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Now please change slide when topic has been changed.
I'm just slide changing.
Maybe you put escape and scroll down somewhere, click inside.
And so these are the 3 factors which influence, contribute to what we perceive. Okay, so We are unaware about all these things, which was perceived. But we are unaware that our perception is influenced by the perceiver, that is me, the target, and the context. Now, the manager, people working in the organization who are dealing with human beings, they have to understand these processes. They have to understand these factors. As a layman, it's okay, I don't know what is happening. But as a manager, one should be able to know how my perception is being. So people are even perceptive about their own abilities. I think I cannot talk in English. My perception. I'm not good at English. My perception. And I think that, and then that becomes reality for me. Okay. But if I try, and I really am able to speak good English, but my perception, my reality is, for me, the reality is no, I can't. And so, awareness of these measures, awareness of these factors is very, very important. For example, when people are more aware about their own racial bias, they are motivated to control their own prejudice and attuned to perceiving their own biases. We have many, because this perception leads to biases, prejudices. So, as I have given you the example, Maharashtrian girls and Kerala girls, so as compared to this, Kerala girls are better nurses. My biases. And when I'm selecting as a HR person, when I'm sitting and I'm interviewing and selecting for my hospital, naturally my bias comes. And so I may do injustice. And I may lose one good candidate also. Isn't it? And therefore, I have to be aware as a manager, I must be aware about my perceptions, about my biases, prejudices, so that I can control them. So while I'm sitting selecting the nurses, I have to control my bias and look at the reality, real reality, not a perceived reality, real reality, as I'm saying. And so in any organization, these biases or these prejudices, they are harmful. And so one has to know what are the factors, and one has to consciously control these factors. Now, in perception, we have what is called as attribution theory. Now, as we have given example, just as I have my perception about myself, I cannot speak good English. Is the perception for myself. Similarly, I'm working with so many people in a group. And so I have perception about other people as well. Another person also. And my perception of others is formed by first impression and small cues that have little supporting evidence. I have given you the example. Once the person was rude to you in a bank, you concluded that the person is very rude. So you have perception about that person. And even if your friend tells you that no, when I went, that person was very cooperative and nice to me, you will say no, he was rude to me and he is a rude person. So my impression, first impression about that person was he is a rude person. There is no supporting evidence. Whether consistently for last 3 years he has been rude to you, there is no such evidence. Whether your friend also says that he is rude, have you observed that person every day going to the bank and sitting silently and observing him that how he behaves with the customers? No. Simply because your first impression is that you perceive that person or you label that person that he is a rude person. Isn't it? So there is little supporting evidence for this. This is particularly true in an organization. But this is very common. When we infer other person's morality. So when he is he always doing his job or responsibility. We generalize. So research indicates that we believe or we form our strongest impression based on what we perceive about other person's character. But our initial information about that person may be sketchy or unfounded, may not have any supporting, but still we have that impression. And this in the organization, if the managers have this kind of perceptions and this kind of, so every time, now suppose there is in an organization, suppose some mistake is committed. The supervisor doesn't know who has committed the mistake, but the mistake is there. And when he comes to know that mistake is done, he immediately reacts, Mr. A must have done this. Without any evidence, without any having any knowledge, because you have a sketchy image about that person, that this is the person who always commits the mistake. In the process, what you do, you hurt the person. He might not have committed that mistake. But the supervisor immediately says that that person must have done this. So you are questioning the character of the person without any evidence as such. And so the non-living objects like table and all these things, they don't have any feelings, but we do, people do have. We can think, we have beliefs, we have motives, we have intentions. People do have, but this table has no feeling. And so it will not perceive anything. Whoever sits on the table will remain as it is. But people know. And so when we observe people, we try to explain their behavior. As I have given you the example, that Fuller Deshpande in Vyakti and Bali, in his book, he has tried to explain the behavior of different people. This is how he has been able to do it because of observing. Does it mean that all the students are alike? Does it mean that all people are like that, or all the whatever he has taken as characters? All people who do that kind of a work are of that type? No. That person he observed and he sketched that person like that. And so our perception is the judgment of a person's action, which is influenced by our assumption, which we make about the person. So we assume the person will behave in the same. So for example, if I'm in a group of 4 friends, and if we decide to go for a movie, immediately I react that she won't agree to this. Because last time she has said no. So I judge her action that time. And I say, first ask her, she will not say yes. I'm judging the person's actions, influenced by my assumption that this time also she will say no. Okay. So a manager, while assigning a task to an employee, He calls that employee to his cabin and he tells his colleague, see, I'll give him the task, but he will say no to this. Before the person comes in and before the task is being told, before the person reacts, the supervisor has his own assumption and judgment about the person. This happens regularly, even in our day-to-day life. So, attribution theory tries to explain the way we judge people in a different way, depending on how we attribute their behavior. So, attribution theory mainly explains how we judge people differently. And therefore, many times the psychologists, they say that don't try to judge. But we are in a habit of judging. You judge your own friends, you judge your supervisor, you judge your colleagues. And then we label them. We not only judge, we label them. And then we think that that is the truth. And so attribution theory tries to explain the ways we judge people differently, depending on the meaning we attribute to their behavior. For instance, suppose, and this is, I really wanted to do this demonstration, but it's okay. Suppose you are working on your desk and another colleague of yours is walking from the front, in front of your desk. He looks at you and he smiles at you. Okay. This smile that he has given you, how you perceive that? Do you think he's cooperative? Do you think he's competitive? Do you think he's exploiting you? What is? Or your boss, your senior is passing through and he smiles at you. What do you think? So you will perceive that. Person might not have any intention. Just he looks at you, smile and went. But then the whole day you keep analyzing and judging that he smiled at me. Which means that he wanted to show me that, look, I'm more closer to the superior than you. Because he's coming from the supervisor's cabin. So you attribute your judgment to that behavior. The behavior is simple, smile. Isn't it? And so you will find that attribution theory suggests that when we observe an individual's behavior, we try to attempt or determine whether it was internally or externally caused. Internally caused means we will see that how that is internally caused or externally caused. And so whether that person every time smiles at me or today he has given a smile to me, what kind of smile? So we attach so many meanings to that smile. Isn't it? खडूससारखा हसून उभा आहे. म्हणतात की नाही? किंवा हो ते तो अँगल बघून छान हसला. असं पण ना. खडूससारखा हसला असं पण नाही. दाखवायला की बघ मी किती जवळचा आहे सुपरमॅनपेक्षा. मी गेलो. किती अर्थ निघू शकतो. तुम्ही म्हणाल ते. It will all depend on the perceiver, the target, and the context. You are sitting alone in the office, the person goes and smiles at you. The person, you are sitting at your desk, next to you another person is sitting, the whole office is there, and in front of all of them he smiles at you. The perceiver and the target remains the same, but context changes. So Context has changed. Very simple examples. And so you will find that in an organization, you are working in the organization and observe this. Now, once you learn OB, you try to apply that in your day-to-day, and you will feel you will enjoy OB, because now you know the reason behind it, the factors behind, and then you will be able to analyze your own perceptions. अरे मी काय विचार असं तुम्हाला. And so you will find that this perception or this kind of analysis of the behavior or the act of another person, we attribute the behavior to a particular thing and then we perceive the person, and therefore this is called as attribution. Now this determination, how I determine this? This determination largely decides or based on three factors: distinctiveness, consensus, and consistency. These are the three factors. Now, before that, we will see what is internally caused behaviors. Are those an observer believed to be under the personal behavior control of another individual? So, he could have controlled his mind. Why his mind? So you believe that that was under the control of the individual behavior. Externally caused behavior is what we imagine the situation forced the individual to do. The situation is such that the individual is forced to do certain things. So you will find that, for example, we will see the example. The employee is late for the work. The supervisor attributes that to his overnight partying and oversleeping. This is internal attribution. So the supervisor believes that this was in the control of the person concerned, isn't it? But if you attribute to this traffic jam, you are making external attribution. Was beyond the control of the individual. Oversleeping is in the control of the person concerned. He could have got up early and come right time and got the shot. So this I attribute as internal cause. But the person was stuck in a traffic jam. So I attribute this to traffic jam, which is external, beyond the control of the individual. So am I trying to attribute the act or the behavior because of internal cause or because of external cause? Because the person sitting next to me smiled at the person who was passing through that corridor, my next person who is sitting, my colleague who is sitting next to me, he smiled at that person and therefore that person smiled both at me also and at that person also. This is external. Right? माझा शेजारचा माणूस त्याच्याकडे बघून स्माइल, म्हणून तो जाताना माझ्या इकडे बघून स्माइल करून गेला आणि त्याच्या इकडे. External, because the environment, the situation. माझा कलेक्ट त्याच्याकडे बघून स्माइल केलं म्हणून he was forced to smile. This is external. But कोणीच काही माझ्या शेजारचा कलेक्ट खाली मान घालून त्याचं काम करतो. But still the person passing through smiles at me. This is internal, I say. Which he would have controlled. Then माझ्याकडे बघून हसायचं काहीच कारण नाही. Smile द्यायचं काहीच कारण नाही. The difference between the two, internal and external attribution. Okay. Now, distinctiveness refers to whether an individual displays different behaviors in different situations. So, Whether the person smiles every day or this is unusual. Today, I don't know. He never smiles at me. He never gives me a smile. But today this was unusual. And so it is distinct. So it is different. So if it is, we are likely to give external attribution. If it is not, we are probably judge the behavior to be internal. So if this is usual, every day when he passes, he gives you a smile. This is usual. So this is internal, that the person really wants to give you a smile. And today, because my colleagues gave a smile to him, he gave a smile to me. This is okay. So distinctiveness, how the individual displays his behavior in different situations. Consensus. If everyone faces similar situation and responds the same way, the behavior shows consensus. So that person smiled at you also, your colleague, one colleague also, and another colleague also. So three of you. You experience the same thing, not the person smiled. How all three of you analyze that behavior? If all of three you have analyzed the behavior as, look, he had gone to the supervisor's cabin, so he gave us a very crooked smile. If all three agree to this, this is consensus. Another question. If consensus is high, you probably gave an external attribution, but if it is not high, you may attribute to internal cause. So I think that it is like that. So this is distinctiveness. An observer looks for consistency on a person's actions. Third is consistency. Does the person respond the same way over time? Example is, coming 10 minutes late for work is not perceived the same for employee who has not been late for several months as for employee who is late 3 times a week. So those who come late every day 10 minutes, this is usual for them. So this becomes internal attribution. But an employee who never comes late, that day one day he comes late, we attach some external attribution because this is not consistent to his behavior. He is right time every day. Today he is late. So the more consistent the behavior, the more we are inclined to attribute it to internal cause. So every time if the person is coming late, every day the person is coming late, then we attribute that to internal cause. The person has the same habit of coming late and giving excuses. So consistency, so distinctiveness is important. First factor is distinctiveness. Second factor is consensus. And third factor is consistency. Now, when we perceive, there are many distortions in perception. The distortions come because we apply or we use shortcuts for judging others. And therefore, we are not able to make accurate perceptions rapidly and provide valid data for making predictions. However, they can do sometimes result in a significant distortion. Because what we do, what are the distortions in perception? Because we use selective process. Our perception is selective perception. The tendency to choose, interpret what one sees is based on my experience, is based on my background, is based on my motive, is based on my interest. So when I go, if I have Alto 800 car, on the road I'll see Alto 800 cars only. I will not look at other cars. This is how I perceive. This is how I use the selection process. So I say that, for example, when Mr. Maya was the CEO, I had Padmini Premier card with me and I was not knowing. One day he asked me that while we were taking lunch, she asked me that, Madam, which card you have? So I said Premier Padmini. So he said, I'm so happy, I also have the same card. So what I do is I do selection process. Based on my interest, based on my experience. So I say Padmini Premier, Padmini card is the best. My I do selection or selective perception. Thus, because we can't observe everything going on the road, we use selective perception. You cannot catch the whole thing going on the road. So, sometimes you are interested, how many e-vehicles are on the road today in Nasi? So, I use the selective perception. I look only at the e-cars. Because I cannot see all the cars. So like this is, and then if I say that only e-cars are on Nasik or on Kondapur road, will it be correct? Because this is my selective perception. So one is distortion in perception is I use selective process. Then halo and horns effect. What is halo effect? The tendency to draw a positive general impression about an individual based on a single characteristic. He is very intelligent, for example. So I have a very positive impression about the individual. Based on one characteristic, he is intelligent. This is called as halo effect. When I have a positive impression about the individual. Now, I am not considering his other characteristics. Whether he is sociable, or whether he is, what is his appearance. I don't consider those characteristics. I consider only intelligence as one characteristic. And then I have a very positive impression about that person. Horn's effect is a tendency to draw negative general impression of an individual based on a single characteristic. He dresses always, I don't like his dressing sense or color sense. These effects are easy to demonstrate. Now, if you say that the person is intelligent, then you start perceiving the person must be very social. And if somebody says that he is very introvert, you say, no, he is very intelligent. But these two things are different. Being intelligent and being introvert or extrovert, these two things are different. But I don't consider that. I judge that person, I perceive that person only on one characteristic, and that is intelligence. Negatively, as I have given you the example, I consider the bank clerk as a very rude person. Consider. Another person or another friend of mine may tell me that, but that person is very intelligent. I will say, don't tell me, he is very good. So I look only at one characteristic which I have seen. This is called as horn effect. Now you might assume the person was loud and happy, when in fact the word sociable does not include those positive attributes. The person is happy. That does not mean that a person is sociable. I am happy with myself. I need not be a social person. So you don't mix those characteristics, but I do. Distortion is that if I feel that the person is happy, so I conclude, I perceive that the person must be a very social person. When I say the person is intelligent, I perceive that the person must be a very social person or very happy person. In fact, these things are different. The person may be very intelligent but not very happy. I believe that. I perceive the person like that. And so managers need to be very careful to draw inferences from small clues. So the manager who is having a team of say 10 people will have to have not only judging the people on one characteristic, but look at the entire personality of the person. But what generally we do, we generally perceive the another person on one characteristic. Isn't it? But for manager, this is not correct. Because you have to manage the team of 10 people. And so this is another distortion that is. Evaluation of a person's characteristics that is affected by comparisons with other people recently encountered who rank higher or lower on the some characteristics. We do not evaluate a person in isolation. Our perception is influenced by other people we have recently met. He is intelligent than this person. So what I am trying always, Maharashtrian nurses are not good as compared to Kerala nurses. What I am trying to do is, I am trying to compare. And this is therefore what is called as contrast effect. And then I perceive certain things. So this is my distortion. Is it necessary to compare all the time? But I compare all the time. And so you will find that while we evaluate the person in isolation, from your colleagues, you say that as compared to him, he is more sociable, or he is more happy, or he is more supportive. So always we compare and contrast. And then we have our own perceptions about ourselves. So another clerk in the bank, he was nice to me. So rather than this person, I go to that person and I go on comparing my perception, distortion in my perception. There is stereotyping, judging someone based on one's perception of the group to which that person belongs. Now, this is the most dangerous. A study found that, as the example is given, but you will find that stereotyping is what we are doing today. One's perception of the group to which that person belongs. So, I had come from a flight in which maximum Gujaratis were there. And all the time they were talking. I couldn't see. So I perceived that all the Gujaratis are like that only. What I am doing is student. But this happens. Today we are doing it. Are we not doing it today? On a very last thing we are doing it today. So to a group of people or to a person belongs to a particular group of people, we have stereotype perception. As I said about nurses, as I said, I don't want Bihari in my house to work. I have not seen that person also. But then my stereotype. This is the stereotyping. They are widespread generalizations, and although may not contain any truth when applied to a particular person or situation. But this is generalization and widespread generalization. And we must monitor ourselves to make sure that we are not unfairly applying this particular stereotyping perception to any person while we are making any decision. So, stereotype, this is an example of warning. They are more useful, the more dangerous, which are misused. And so the manager had to be very careful about whether he has that distortion in perception, stereotyping. Our perceptions, many of which are mere instantaneous and without conscious deliberation, color our outlook. Sometimes they have little impact on anyone, but more often our perceptions greatly influence our decision. And so we have to be careful about what we perceive. And at least, see, up till now, when we are not learning all these concepts, unconsciously we are doing it. But now, when we know the concept, when we know all the factors and all these things, we have to be careful when we perceive certain things and assess that we should not be our decisions or what we act, what we behave should not have any adverse impact on the other people. Particularly the managers, we have to be very careful about this. So this was all about perception. Clear? Up till now? Now the next is personality. Another topic in this individual behavior is personality. I think we use this word very casually. What is personality of a person? We don't exactly understand also what is my personality. That also I don't know many of them. So personality, and you will find that on internet there are so many standard questionnaires available to assess one's own personality or to assess the personality of others. So these are world over standardized personality tests. You can look at those tests. So many times we look at the people and we are curious to know why people are very loud or aggressive, why some people are very quiet. Some people adapt to changes or certain jobs very easily. Some people do not adapt to the job or environment very easily. And so, what is this personality that we all the time, the personality of the person, all the time we use this word? In short, personality is the sum of ways in which the individual reacts to and interacts with others. So, all the time we are interacting, reacting to what other people or situations that come up. We use many adjectives when we use the word personality. Describe the personality of any person you know or your own personality. How you will describe your own personality? Your own personality. Forget about others. Your own personality. How you describe your own personality?
3 years back, I have done calibration.
Just one sentence.
Achiever.
Okay. So you have given adjective achiever to your personality. Because one word, if you have to, so you use the word achiever. So when you look at the people, you try to know whether the person is achiever or not, and you judge that person's personality on that attribute. Because you think that personality is achieving something. Desire to achieve. I can put it. Anyone, how you go ahead. So she describes herself as quiet personality. Yeah? learn. So what we are doing is we are using many adjectives to describe our own personality. In OB, the personality is overall traits and how the person has grown over a period of time, developed himself or herself, and that is the person's personality. So, when I saw that person first, his personality was different. Now he is a different person. Also, we say that, isn't it? And so you will find that in OB, we analyze the personality by knowing how the person has grown or developed himself or herself over a period of time. Now, personality determinants are there. Whether personality is measurable, yes. As I said, today the psychologists world over, they have designed many standard personality tests. If you go to a psychologist and if you tell him that or tell her that I want to know about my personality, the psychologist will give you few tests. And then he will give you a report that your personality is like this. So there are many determinants of personality as being decided world over by the psychologist. Mainly two determinants are discussed by the psychologist by discussing about personality. They say that personality is the result of heredity and environment. Mainly two determinants. Heredity and environment. Actually, the personality is result of both. But many a times research tends to give more importance to heredity. Sigmund Freud, for example. We will see that in motivation. But so heredity refers to the factors determined at conception. So physical structure, facial features, temperament, muscle composition, reflexes, energy level, biological rhythms, they are all completely and substantially influenced by parentage, by your biological factors or physiological or inherent psychological makeup. And so many researchers very strongly believe. So if you go to a psychologist with some problem, the psychologist will start from your childhood. How was your childhood? Now recently, I think the modern psychologists, they defer to this. And the modern, am I right? The modern psychologists, they don't go into these aspects. And they say that no, personality can be changed. And personality is the result of the environment or the person's willingness or unwillingness, maybe, to do or not to do something, certain things. But earlier it was very strongly believed that personality is the result of inheritance. How your parents were, how you are brought up, what was the atmosphere in your house. I give a very simple example, but very interesting example of this. That example can be on motivation also, but inheritance. So I have given you the example two brothers were there. One elder brother was highly educated, well settled in life, happily married, good family life, good professional life, and a younger one not very well educated, a very disturbed family life, not a good career because not very well educated, was alcoholic. And a common friend of these two brothers, he always he was always used to wonder that why one brother is like this and another brother is like this. So one day he goes to the elder one and asks him that why you are like this? You are an achiever. Your career is good. Your family is good. You are highly educated. So why it is like that? He said, because of my father. Why? Because my father was alcoholic. He used to beat my mother and both of us, my brother and me. And that time I decided that I will never be alcoholic. I will get good education and I will have a very happy family. He goes to the younger one, asks him that your elder brother is like this. Why you are like this? He says, because of my father. How do you expect me to be non-alcoholic when my father is alcoholic? So, how you grow?
लाइन का प्रेशर रहता है 15 से 20 किलो चलो और बोलेगा कहीं गैस पे कट गया तो क्या देने के देने पड़ जाएंगे यार
So you will find that this comes in motivation also, but then and this comes in perception also. How you look at the things. The elder one looked at the things differently, younger one looked at the situation is the same. But target is the same, but perceiver is different. Context is also the same, but the perceiver is different and therefore result is different. Behavior is different. So modern psychologists, what my point to tell you is that earlier the researchers very strongly believed that inheritance or heredity is the reason for a particular type of personality. Many a times we say that even a small child, if you go to some your relative's place or friend's place, a small child is very angry, he throws all his toys and all this. And then you ask that why he is doing like that, and the mother very proudly says that because his father is also a very angry type of a person. Isn't it? That's what it is. It can argue it. Oh, that's how it is. So, personality. The hereditary approach argues that ultimate explanation of individual's personality is the molecular structure of genes, which is located on the chromosomes. So, those researchers who argue that hereditary decides the personality, they argue on this graph. This not to suggest that personality never changes. People's score on dependability tend to increase over time as when young adults start families and establish careers. So your personality, apart from your heredity, may change over time. Personality never remains the same. What you were 10 years back and what you are 10 years after. The personality might have changed completely. Personality is more changeable in adolescence and more stable in adults. So we say that after 30, it is difficult to change the opinion, as we see. And then very difficult to change those ideas. But in adolescence, till adolescence, you can change the ideas of the person. You can, and therefore, those are, as we say, those are the formative years, as we say. School-going children, we say that those are the formative years because in those years, their personality is groomed and developed. So, early researches on personality, they try to identify and label enduring characteristics, including they are shy, they are aggressive, submissive, lazy, ambitious, loyal, timid. So we have so many adjectives attached to personality. When someone frequently exhibits these characteristics and they are relatively enduring over time and across situations, we call them personality traits. When certain characteristics are exhibited all through in all kinds of situations, Now she's saying, I'm a very quiet person. Okay, but now her personality will be tasty when suppose someone is bombarding on you all the abusive words. How she reacts? Then she brings out all her weapons, you know. So, but even in that situation, if she remains quiet, then she is a quiet person. But in such stressful situations or in different situations, if the person is behaving in a different way, then that trait cannot be called as a personality trait. You say that you are an achiever. Now suppose you feel that there is injustice for you in your company. Still that achievement motivation is there in you. Then if you show that even in adverse situations, then that becomes your personality trait. In spite of injustice made to me, still I am an achiever and I will see to it that I achieve my goals. Whatever I do. And so, when a person exhibits continuously, consistently the characteristics over a period of time and in all across the situations may be happy, the situations may be stressful, the situations may be difficult. So across the situations, when the person exhibits similar kinds of traits, then that trait is a personality trait of the person. Yeah. The more consistent the characteristic over time and the more frequently it occurs in diverse situations, the more important the trait is in describing that individual. So, for example, if I have to describe the personality of Mr. Imar Maya as a CEO, what I have seen him and his personality, I will say he's a very compassionate person, empathetic. Okay. Now, whether he shows this consistently in a very stressful situation, there was a bomb blast in the stock exchange. He was there so there was a bomb blast. His personality I described as compassionate. Okay. Now, this characteristic, this trait of his personality was tested during that bomb blast situation. Very unusual situation. My 10 students were in the Bombay Stock Exchange doing their project when there was a bomb blast. All the telephone lines were out of order and we could not contact any of them. I could not contact, there were no mobiles that time, landline only. So I could not contact even Mr. Maya because all the telephone lines of stock exchange were out of order, destroyed. Now, the parents of all those 10 students, they were sitting in front of me in my office. Madam, tell us, where are our children? What answer I have to give? I don't have any answer. Because, no, ultimately at 11 o'clock in the night, I told the parents that please, all of you, as soon as I get some information, I'll let you know. But now it's 11. No news and nothing is known. How I will come to know? How they know? But you will appreciate and as I said, compassionate. At 2 a.m. in the morning, Mr. Maya called me. He said, Madam, this is the only line that is being established by BSNL, and I am giving this first call to you just to tell you that sleep quietly, all your 10 students are safe and they are in my office right now. Now, in all that mess that he was facing, he remembered to call me and he could remember that I must be worried about what happened to my students. And so he gave me a call. Therefore, I call that personality as compassion. Even if he would not have called me, there was no grievance. I could not blame him because the situation was like that. But across the situations, you exhibit the same trait. So he exhibited the same trait, compassion. Because why I call him as a compassionate personality? Because every time when I used to go to him and we used to open our tiffin or open our start our lunch, he would give a call to his driver who was in the basement in the car. He would, before taking first sip or before starting his lunch, he would give first call to his uh, driver, Are Shankar Jevlasta, and then he will start his lunch. So I said he was a compassionate person. And that trait he exhibited across the situations. I observed that gesture of him, and I used to tell my students that he is a very compassionate person. And then that characteristic, that trait was exhibited across in the most stressful situation. So, what is important is when we say that this is my personality trait, I must be sure that across the situations, that trait remains the same. That is personality. Understood? So the more consistent you are in exhibiting that trait, that becomes your personality. Across the situations. Across the situations. Even in emergencies. Okay? I am a quiet person. But when emergency comes, I get upset. I start shouting. Then I'm not a quiet person. Across the situations. I am an achiever. But I am an achiever. But in my company, they don't have any value for me. They don't give me proper opportunities. I'm not happy with my supervisor. And therefore, I could not achieve. I'm not showing that consistency in my dream. So, this is important. The big five model of personality. So, as I said, there are so many researchers which are done, and so many theories are there on personality. So, this model, why this is called as big five model? Because this model, this research concluded that there are five basic dimensions which underlie the variation in human personality. So, as I said, there are many tests on personality which are available. So, you can take any test and you can see what is your score for that test. And these five elements or these five dimensions of personality, you can measure your scores on these five dimensions. So the first dimension is conscientiousness, personal consistency and reliability. Are you a dependable person? Are you a consistent person? A highly conscientious person is reliable, organized, dependable, and persistent. Many times, we label or we use the adjective. In times of difficulty, I call only this person because he is dependable, he is reliable. So, those who score low on this dimension, they are easily distracted. And they are disorganized, unreliable. But those who score high on this element, on this dimension, they are highly dependable and organized. And so, take a test and measure your score on this dimension. Higher the score, the more organized, dependable, consistent you are. lower the score, the more disorganized, distracted person you are. So, take a taste for yourself. In many organizations, I don't know whether in your organizations, many organizations do this test, personality test. Before recruiting people also, and after certain intervals also. To know what kind of personality, what kind of person that he or she is. Is the person dependable? Or is the person who is distracted easily by certain things and therefore becomes disorganized or unreliable? So this is the first dimension. Then emotional stability. How the person can withstand the stress. People with emotional stability tend to become self-confident and secure. As I have given you the example, Mr. Maria, emotional stability, in spite of the, you can never imagine the stress, actually what happened, that time, we were going to Mumbai because our 10 students were doing the project. I said my staff members also that you also come with me and you take 1 day training from the stock market. And so we hired a vehicle, a bus, small bus, and 10 of us, I was also with them. We were going to stock exchange. When the stock exchange were 2 kilometers, there was a bomb blast. And everything was, it was a mess. It was a mess. That driver was from Nasik. He was not knowing all the roads in Mumbai. And all people started running there. There was a chaos, utter chaos. And we were stuck. Where to go? What to do? And there was a series of bombs. One after another. Air India also. So wherever we used to think that we will go this way, there was a bomb blast. So, and we were in the bus. Now what to do? Where to go? So all 10 of us, and the driver also got confused and he also came under stress. Now what is the fate now? What to do? One of my colleagues from the college, he was a chartered accountant. Otherwise very intelligent person in his job. He started crying so loudly and he started shouting that madam, do something, otherwise we are gone. Oh, what not? He was shouting and crying and crying. And that confused more the driver, because what to do now? So I told the driver, keep calm. Let us see. Let me understand the situation first. What is happening around us? So all were running, police vans and sirens and whatnot. And then I saw 2 policemen on bike. So I told the driver, open the door. He said, madam, don't go. It is so dangerous. So I said, something needs to be done and somebody has to do it. So either you go or I. So he said, no, you go. So I said, okay, I'll go. So because I was the principal of the college. So I had the responsibility of all 9 of them, and the driver. So he opened the door, I stepped out of the bus, and then I stood before these 2 policemen and I showed them hand. This stop with them. And then they looked at me and at the car and they said that you are from Nasik. So I said, yes, we are from Nasik. And we were going to the stock market, but this is the situation now. And now we don't know how to get out of this. The policeman looked now. Again, perception. Huh? One of my colleagues said, madam, don't interact with the policeman. You know how rude they are. But I said, whatever is your thought, but right now, I have no other way to go. So, I told the policeman. The policeman said, both of them, they said, madam, it is difficult to go out of Mumbai right now because all the roads are blocked and policemen are there, people are running around, but I'll do one thing. So I said, what? So he said, just wait, give me 10 minutes time. I'll get one constable point. That constable will sit with you in the vehicle and he will show your driver the way to go. So I said, fine. So he said, you go in the vehicle, don't stand on the road now. Give me 10 minutes time. After 15 minutes, constable was there. He was with us and he guided my driver to go. And once we reached Thane, we were safe. And then after Thane, when we stopped at Igarpuri, and then that my colleague, I said, what are you doing? So he said, madam, but it was dangerous. Why you went and talked to the policeman? I said, but in the given situation, that was the solution. Otherwise, who will guide us how to go out? And then now he said, now, what about those 10 students? So I said, don't worry about them. I'll see what to do. So it is emotional stability. In such situations, extreme situations, how you maintain your calm, how you are self-confident, that is important. Now, high score on emotional stability, they are optimistic and they are always happy. And low score on emotional stability, they are very negative type of people and always grumpy. So emotional stability is also discussed in Converse, neurotism. Low scores, they are hyper vigilant, they are vulnerable to physical and psychological effects of stress. So you feel like vomiting. The person he was complaining that there is a very pain in my stomach. I feel like vomiting. I said nothing will happen to you. Don't worry, keep quiet. Stop crying once. So when you are hyper vigilant or hyperactive, that time emotional, because emotional stability score is very low. And so in organizations, particularly, suppose there is a fire in the organization. What the manager? You have no control. So, you have control, but accident is an accident. It may happen anytime. So if there is a fire, how do you do? Emotional stability is important. So high score on this and low scores on this. So test your emotional stability score. Extraversion. Rational approach towards the social world. Their extroverts are more assertive and sociable. They experience more positive emotions than introverts. And they more freely express their feelings. Introverts tend to be thoughtful, reserved, timid, and quiet. So you are introvert. Okay, you don't express your feelings openly. So test your score on this also. Are you an extrovert person or introvert person? Openness to experience. Dimension addresses the range of interest and fascination with novelty. So am I ready to take new experience? Am I curious to know something new? So voice culture course. I took the voice culture course last year. 3 big schools on voice culture. So my friend said, but then you are curious about it. Are you open for new experience? This is my new experience. Am I ready for that? Your superior or supervisor or your senior tells you that instead of working in quality control department, now you will work in production department. Am I ready for that? I will grumble. For all these years I have worked in quality and now you are telling me to go to production. Why I should go to production? I'm not open to new experience. So open people, you have to be, and then if you are open, this openness is there to new experience, you become more curious, you become more creative. So those who score very low on this, they are conventional. And they find comfort in what is familiar. I am familiar with production department or in quality control department. So I am comfortable because this is similar to what I was doing for last 10 years. Now I should go to production department. But the openness to experience, people will say, this is an opportunity for me to learn something new experience for me. So whether you score high or whether you score low on this openness to experience. So this is another dimension. And the fifth dimension is agreeableness. Individual's propensity to defer to others. How far I agree to what people are saying. Agreeable people are cooperative. They are warm, they are trusting. And so if you are working in a team, you have to be agreeable. You have to be cooperative, you have to be warm, you have to trust your colleagues. And then only you can work in a team. Otherwise, the team has no meaning. The team will never achieve the goal. Again, those who are agreeable, they are more happier. If you disagree with everything, you make yourself unhappy. So, better to be angry. When people choose organizational team members, and agreeable people are the first choice, as I said. So, if a team has to work and achieve the goal, then the team members, they have to be. So, what you score on this, that is it. Now, instead of taking any text which is available on internet, I will give you a simple yardstick for this. 1 to 10 scale. 1 to 10 scale. And you go on giving yourself marks. That conscientiousness. How far I am a reliable or organized person. How many marks I'll give to myself on this count. This is a self-assessment. This is self-assessment. Then emotional stability. Remember all those situations which were stressful and what I reacted. And on 1 to 10, how many marks I'll give to myself. Then extroversion. Am I an extrovert person or introvert person? How many marks I'll give? Openness to experience. How many marks I'll give to myself out of 10? Agreeableness. How many marks I'll give to myself? And that decides your personality. Simple. This is assessing your own. Need not go to psychologist. I'm sorry. I'm diverting your clients. But you can do it yourself. But you have to be honest with yourself. Condition is, I have to be honest. If I'm not an agreeable person, I must say that I give only 3 marks for me. You have to be very honest. If you really want to know what kind of person you are, this gives room for improvement. Okay? So I'm not an agreeable person. I give only 3 marks. So I have to change myself. And then I work on myself. I try to change this trait of me. So this is how you have to do it. So what are the important concepts or dimensions for OB, relevant to OB? First is locus of control.
Means what is the place of control, internal or external? I believe that some people believe that place of control of life is within me, within the individual. In other words, the person believes that he can control his life. Exactly opposite is external locus of control. Place of locus control is outside the individual. I have given you the example. The elder brother believed that locus of control is internal. Younger believes that locus of control is outside. Such persons believe that life is controlled by environment over which he has आपण म्हणतो ना नशिबाच नाही.
So you give locus of control outside you. माझं प्रारब्ध, माझं दैव वगैरे वगैरे काय काय आपण बोलतो. So आपण मॅच हरलो तर आपण काय म्हणतो दिवसच आपला बॅड लक. पण we don't do critical analysis
Displayed by Australian players and Indian.
Have you assessed that critically? आपण त्यांना देऊन टाकतो सुद्धा 10 मॅचेस जिंकले खूप झालं दैव नव्हतं. No. Locus of control. So people believe that I have control over my life. And people believe I have no control over my life. What is my locus of control? So people with internal locus, motivated, they are motivated to work, are ready to take more responsibility. And because they believe that there is a direct relationship between the action and the reward. Whatever action they are taking, they get the reward of that action. People who have external orientation feel that outcomes are determined by fate and independent of their hard work or decisions they take. So, in OB, what is your score on this? Am I a person who has internal locus of control, or am I a person who has external control? What is it? From where this has come? We very casually we say that. But I must tell you, because we never go into the details and we never study our ancient literature. I studied ancient literature. The Yoga Vasishtha is the literature. It is a part of Ramayana, but a totally separate thing. Literature, available, Sanskrit, 33,000 shlokas. Yoga Vasishtha, Vasishtha Muni, as it denotes. Vasishtha Muni has told yoga to Ram. Ram is 15 years old and in depression. Can we believe this? But this was the fact. And this is what is there. Ram is 15 years old and in depression. And in Yoga Vasishtha, Vasishtha Muni declares that there is nothing like fate. Everything depends on what you do and how you do it. So your actions are important, fate is not there at all. Things are not predetermined. Vasishtha Muni is. And to communicate this message, he has given so many examples and he has given 33 shlokas to explain this, why he is explaining to Ram, of all the persons, Ram, that it is not the fate. It is your parakram. It is your action which will decide your life. Now, See, and what we do. In Japanese, 9 good habits of Japanese people. You know, the one habit that they tell is, we never say best of luck. As we say best of luck. So Japanese people say we don't give anything to luck. So if the person is going for some important work, we say do your best. See the difference between the two. See the difference. Do your best. You are going for exam, do your best. When I say best of luck, I leave some part of it to your luck, and then you say I studied, but the examiner asked the same question which the topic I had given for option, and so I couldn't score more. So your locus of control is. But as a student, it is my duty to study all the topics equally good. And I'm confident that whatever examination paper comes, I will be able to answer. This is my internal locus of control, where I stand. Okay, so the manager will have to find out what kind of people he has. So, Machiavellian, a personality traits that denotes cunningness, ability to manipulate, and a drive to use whatever means necessary to gain power. So you will find people in your organization who are like this. Maybe. Those who score very high on this, they are detached emotionally, and they believe that end justify means. My end is to achieve the top position. By what means? I don't know. And what ethics says? Ethics says means are also important. By what means you are achieving the end? It is not only the end. So by manipulativeness, by cunningness, if you achieve the top position, then it is not ethical. So Machiavellianism, what you score on this? The high, they can do harm to people directly or indirectly to achieve their goal. So these are the people, those who score very high on this, they are not bothered that because of my actions somebody is at loss or somebody got hurt. They only know they have to achieve their goal by whatever means. So high score on this, they are cunning people. Low score on this, they are more honest, they are independent. They have a goal. I want to achieve, I want to reach at the top position, but ethically, by not harming others. So, what we are doing with the nature today? We want to have more land for building houses. So, what we are doing? We are cutting the trees, we are destroying the jungles, and so we are taking away the place of residence of all these Biptya and all of them, and therefore you see Biptya in your house. Isn't it? Why they come to your house? Because you have not left anything to leave for them. So we are high match, we want more land. As human beings, we have every right to have more land. So we are very, and then we justify it. And we do all kind of harm to the nature. So high match do well in their jobs that require bargaining skills. Salesman, for example, his goal is to sell that product. Come what may. And so he will use all his cunningness, his manipulativeness to convince the customer to buy that particular product. So salesmen are where the jobs where these bargaining skills are required. They may flourish initially, but they flourish when there are minimum rules and regulations and less emotional involvement. Sahara Group, for example. So the goal was he spent 500 crores of rupees in the marriage of his sons. All-time record. Even today, nobody has spent so much money. But at the cost of so many investors. Cunningness, ability to manipulate, to gain financial power. And therefore, this high score is dangerous. Self-monitoring are the people who can regulate self-presentation, emotion, behavior in any kind of social environment or situations. Can you control yourself? So, according to the situation, can you control yourself? That is self-monitoring. People with low scores are likely to change their behavior according to the situation. And high score people, they are successful in managerial position as they are required to play multiple roles. So those who are at high position, they display this trait of self-monitoring. In any kind of situation, they are able to keep calm. And so self-monitoring is another. So I stop here. So how was Obi? मजा ऍक्च्युली होगी तरी ह्याच्यातला खूप सारे गेम्स असतात मजा करताय आपल्याला वेळ सर मला रागवतात पण ह्याच्यात खूप मजा काय काय गेम्स आणि काय काय रोल प्लेस वगैरे करायला मजा येते इंटरेस्टिंग आहे and at the same time you can assess your own person तुमच्या स्वतःची परसेप्शन्स पुन्हा एकदा तपासून बघा सगळे आपण स्टिरियोटाइप काही करतो काय करतो ओके सो see you next